First, I will give you a brief introduction to how we got here. As Guido mentioned, the Austria House was how we were first introduced to the PassiveHouse standard, and then eventually convinced that this is the way that we should be building homes and that it makes sense and that it works. A little bit of background on the Austria House. There were 5 private companies in Austria that kind of came together after hearing a presentation on the Green Olympics in Canada. And it's very standard for different countries to build their own country houses for the Olympics. And so these companies came together and thought, we will show the world what green is, and we will use the Olympics as a global stage. And so they formed the Austrian PassiveHouse group, started bringing on a number of different people, Guido being one of them, Robert, and our company as the Canadian general contractors. Our job was to make sure that the foundations were there, organize all the services, and everything with the Austria House was prefabricated in Austria and shipped over. So through this, we were kind of introduced to the basics behind the PassiveHouse standard. As Guido mentioned, the PassiveHouse concept was kind of born in Canada, and the basics behind it aren't anything new to Canadians. If you speak to any builders out there, they will know about compact efficient design, they will know about passive heating and cooling, they will know about super insulation, they will know about air tightness, using really good windows. What the PassiveHouse design, or standard, does is requires you to use all of this information on a holistic approach and use it here as opposed to down here. And they have developed a planning software that allows you to design your house and very accurately determine the amount of energy that your house will consume. The things that we learned from the Austria House as builders is that super insulation and thermal bridge-free construction is very important. This picture here is showing the expanded polystyrene insulation that's below the concrete slab, and everything was thermally broken. The next is the windows. The Austria House taught us that it is more than just triple pane, and it introduced us to a whole window market in Europe that were achieving performance standards that were unheard of in Canada at that time. And air tightness. Probably one of the most important features of the PassiveHouse, and you do need to achieve a certain level of air tightness in order to get that stamp, which you can see compared to your Canadian home, the PassiveHouse requirement is far lower. And for those that don't know, the air tightness is kind of measuring essentially the amount of holes in your house. And that it works. As everyone has mentioned, this dramatically reduces the energy demands for heating and cooling. The PassiveHouse, they've been monitoring energy consumption for the last year and a half, and for the first year, this is a 2,700 square foot public use building that the door is constantly open, closed throughout the winter and summer months. And the municipality had to spend $235 for heating and cooling for an entire year. The other thing that we took away from the Austria House is that it makes sense to prefabricate when building to this standard. As I mentioned, everything for the Austria House was prefabricated in Europe and shipped over. Prefabrication allows you to control your building environment, construct on a horizontal surface, and allows you to more easily gain the efficiencies in your envelope by having that not building in the rain, building with square edges and all that. The other thing that prefabrication gives you is a very quick assembly time. So you're out of the weather within 3 to 7 days on average, making it a very efficient and popular construction method for challenging work sites, weather conditions like down in Vancouver, or high efficiency buildings. The one thing that the PassiveHouse standard does not tell you is how to build them. It tells you what you need to achieve, and it sets these thresholds out, but you can kind of achieve it in a million different ways. When we were trying to design our system, we wanted to use as many locally available, sustainable, low VOC products as possible. We are wood guys, so our system is focused on wood and wood byproducts. Wood is BC and Canada's most sustainable, renewable building product. The other thing that we wanted to create was a healthy system. So, as I mentioned, low VOCs, we shied away from using petrochemical-based materials, and we also created a system that was airtight, but still vapor diffusion open to the exterior. So, essentially functioning like a Gore-Tex jacket would. These are just a couple shots of the construction process. So this is up in our manufacturing plant. The insulation was done on site. This is a blown cellulose insulation, so just recycled newspaper. These are the panels being shipped to site, being put into place, a little bit like a puzzle, being put into place again. To kind of create and maintain that airtight barrier, it's very important that you use airtight tapes to tape off all of your seams within the wall and the connections within the panels. This shows our service wall coming into place, and you can see here, this is one of the service entry points up in the corner there. And then that's just a picture of all of the services in place.